South Africa faces a complex and urgent crisis in its public transport and urban mobility systems, shaped by historical inequities, underinvestment, deteriorating infrastructure, social and safety concerns, and a mismatch between population growth, settlement patterns, and transport planning, and without substantial reform many millions will continue to endure long, unsafe, costly and unreliable commutes that hamper economic opportunity, quality of life, and social inclusion. One of the clearest manifestations of this is that over the past 2 decades, despite major investments, transport equity has scarcely improved, and in many respects has worsened. Commuting times have extended from about 37.3 minutes in 2003 to over 45.7 minutes in 2020 on average, and Black South Africans, particularly Black women, suffer the worst travel burdens, with extended travel times and high levels of exposure to unsafe conditions while accessing work, education, healthcare or other services. The physical infrastructure of transport, especially rail systems, has been allowed to deteriorate because of aging equipment, insufficient maintenance, theft and vandalism, power disruptions, and lack of spare parts, which combine to reduce reliability and force many commuters to rely on more expensive, less safe, or informal transport options such as minibus taxis or overcrowded buses. Connectivity is weak. Many areas, especially townships, informal settlements, and rural peripheries are poorly served by formal public transport, meaning people must often walk long distances, use combinations of informal modes, or spend large portions of their income just to reach transit hubs or workplaces. This problem is exacerbated by sprawl and land use patterns established under apartheid that separated where people live from where jobs, services, and amenities are located. The cost of transport is disproportionately high for low and middle income households. Many spend more than the often stated policy target. For example, in Gauteng, nearly 60% of households spend more than 10% of their income on transport, which eats into other essential consumption, limits savings, and perpetuates poverty. Safety and personal security are major concerns. People fear violence, crime, unsafe waiting areas, and theft when using public transport. Pedestrian safety is particularly problematic, given poor or absent infrastructure, sidewalks, lighting, crossings, in many areas. Moreover, the lack of accessibility for people with disabilities is another serious problem. Many rail stations, train services, and even bus systems are difficult or impossible to use for disabled people, meaning that disability grants notwithstanding, mobility remains severely restricted for those without full mobility or assistance. Operational inefficiencies are persistent. Poor coordination among different modes, bus, train, taxi, informal transport, unreliable schedules, service disruptions, lack of real-time information, delays, and breakdowns are frequent. Public transport is often unable to meet demand, especially during peak commuting periods, leading to overcrowding and long wait times. On the other hand, there are some models that show promise. Bus rapid transit (BRT) systems like Ray Via in Johannesburg exhibit what more inclusive and lower-cost alternatives could achieve. Connecting historically marginalized areas, for example, the townships to urban economic centers, improving access to jobs and services. The Gautrain high-speed rail link between Johannesburg, Pretoria, and the OR Tambo Airport shows what a high-investment, high-service-grade transport solution can deliver in terms of speed, comfort, and prestige, but it also highlights the limitations: its cost, limited reach, and inability to serve poorer, outlying communities meaningfully leave many people excluded from its benefits. The collapse of passenger rail services in many regions has dealt a harsh blow to affordability and social inclusion. When trains are not available, people have fewer choices, and must increasingly rely on informal or road-based transport, which often means higher cost, more time, more exposure to traffic risk, congestion, and unsafe road conditions. In addition, freight rail decline, Transnet's falling tonnage, poor maintenance, theft etc. increases road traffic of goods, which degrades roads, increases congestion, increases transportation costs, and feeds back into delays and inefficiencies in passenger transport. There is also a governance and policy dimension. Fragmentation among municipal, provincial and national responsibilities, corruption, weak oversight, insufficient planning, lack of long-term investment strategy, political interference or neglect, and insufficient inclusion of community voices all hamper consistent improvements. Environmental aspects too are relevant. Reliance on older, inefficient vehicles, high emissions, traffic congestion and idling, poor air quality, and carbon emissions from road transport are increasingly unsustainable both for climate goals and for public health. As urban populations grow, climate change increases risks, heat, floods etc., which the weak transport infrastructure amplifies. And though there have been some external loans and infrastructure funding, for example, a recent World Bank loan aiming to upgrade infrastructure including transport, the scale of investment needed to modernize, expand, and maintain a reliable, safe, accessible, and integrated transport network is very large, and so prioritization, efficient use of funds, public-private partnership, transparent procurement and maintenance regimes, and political will are all required. Finally, for South Africa to really break the cycle of inequality, poverty, and exclusion, transport reform cannot just be technical or engineering-based. It must include social justice, ensuring affordable fares, accessibility for disadvantaged groups, disabled, women, rural dwellers, safety, and inclusion of communities in decision-making. Urban planning must shift to reduce distances between homes, workplaces, and services, densify settlement in ways that support public and non-motorized transport, integrate land use, and make walking and cycling safer components of mobility solutions. Without doing this, the promise of a more equitable, prosperous, mobile society will remain largely unfulfilled for most South Africans.